Every lover of The Summer I Turned Pretty has a reason why they prefer one Fisher brother to the other. In the earlier seasons, there were few reasons to like Conrad, but season 3 seems to be highly in his favor, and we've compiled these 8 reasons why many of the mature fans want Conrad for Belly. Conrad might not be dating Belly for now, but he has remained physically and mentally loyal even since their last breakup, something Jeremiah can't say for himself. In 4 years since Belly chose to be with Jeremiah, Conrad hasn't loved another woman, as revealed in his conversation with Agnes. On the other hand, Jeremiah moved on in a week to their not-so-real breakup. This single fact captures the emotional weight difference between the two brothers. While Jeremiah processed heartbreak by distracting himself, Conrad held onto his feelings quietly, consistently, and without seeking comfort in anyone else. That's not just a minor detail, it's a defining part of their commitment. Conrad's restraint isn't because he's now very perfect. It's about his emotional depth, which has always been part of him. He carried Belly with him for 4 years without even making it known to Belly or anyone who cared. He let the space between them speak louder than any replacements ever could, and he didn't start flirting with anyone Belly would notice to demand attention. Instead, he has been waiting for something he can't clearly define, and that's precisely what makes Conrad stand out, especially in season 3. Jeremiah, while warm and open, has always chased comfort. He doesn't like to sit with pain, but to escape it. That might feel easier, but it rarely lasts, and it's a significant contributing factor to why he messed up big in season 3 and had many people preferring Conrad over him. Conrad never stopped choosing Belly, even without communicating, which is a big reason why the mature ladies pick Conrad over Jeremiah. And if we're being honest, the love Conrad has for Belly didn't specifically start the summer everything changed, but it did for Jeremiah.
I can remember the exact moment when everything changed. From the first moment I saw her last summer, I was done for.
Although Belly turned pretty that summer, Conrad had always had a soft spot for her, which started long before.
Yeah, it's just, we grew up together, so I've always thought of her as this little kid, but now she's not.
But since they were kids at the time, it took time for their feelings to develop. Before the love triangle existed, and before Belly became the girl who turned every head when she walked into a room, Conrad already saw her, not just as Steven's little sister or the tag-along to Cousins Beach, but as someone worth falling for. That's the thing about Conrad. His love didn't really need a transformation process to take shape. He loved her when she was awkward and unsure, when she wore braces and didn't quite know who she was yet. He noticed the small things, how she lit up when talking about books, or how fiercely she cared about the people around her. Even though the summer she turned pretty made everything even better, Conrad has always been interested in Belly. Jeremiah has also been a great friend to Belly since childhood, but his love came after the glow up, and many people also think it's because of Conrad's interest in Belly. But Conrad was the very first boyfriend Belly had ever had a crush on, and that kind of love is different. So when Belly looks back, she's not just remembering their shared childhood moments. She's remembering who saw her first, and more importantly, the person who never stopped seeing her after. Although many people are just getting to see Jeremiah's flaws in season 3, he has always been messy and would take a swing at his brother, which means he barely knows how to keep his emotions in check when it matters the most. But Conrad never punched Jeremiah first. Not when he found out Jeremiah kissed Belly behind his back. Not when he walked in on them together. Not even when Jeremiah pursued Belly anyway, knowing how much Conrad still loved her. There were plenty of chances for Conrad to explode. He had every reason to be angry, lash out, and make things ugly, but he rarely did. Instead, he stepped back. He swallowed the pain and kept to himself. He let the girl he loved explore a relationship with his brother and pretended he was okay with everything just for peace. And that's precisely where his strength lies, because it shows control. That's love that prioritizes Belly's happiness, even when it breaks his own. Because the truth is, Conrad wasn't afraid of fighting Jeremiah. He was scared of hurting Belly. He knew a punch wouldn't just bruise his brother, it would wreck everything Susanna wanted for her boys boys and Belly. The mature ladies can't help but fall for Conrad's restraint, especially not when emotions run as deep as his do. Conrad has always held it all in, even when it's tearing him apart, not because he's cold, but because he's careful. There's a moment that often gets overlooked from the show, the one that says everything about Conrad's character, which is another reason most fans love him for Belly. He asked Jeremiah if he would be okay with him dating Belly, which was a brilliant but considerate thing to do. Conrad, who had loved Belly longer, deeper, and more painfully than anyone realized, still paused to consider his brother's feelings. Before acting alone, he looked his brother in the eye and asked, not because he had to, but because he wanted to do it right. And that's because he misrepresented Jeremiah's feelings and thought he was just happy doing his thing and not being a threat. But then, the action in itself is very commendable. Conrad could have kept things a secret. He could have justified it with the history he and Belly shared, but instead, he chose honesty. He decided to respect the complicated knot of love and brotherhood they were all tangled in. And even though he had every reason to claim her first, he still asked. That single question from Conrad reveals the depth of his care, not just for Belly, but for his family. It wasn't about winning, it was about not harming, about making sure this didn't destroy them from the inside out. Conrad's love story isn't just with Belly, but with everyone he cares about. And one of the most potent, understated ways that shows up is in how he treated his mother, which is another excellent reason Conrad is winning over Jeremiah. When Susanna got sick, Conrad knew before anyone else, and he didn't tell a soul. He carried that sad truth alone, including the weight of knowing, the fear, and the helplessness, all while pretending everything was fine. He didn't lash out, he didn't ask for pity, he respected her wish to keep it quiet, even though it was slowly tearing him apart. His silence may have seemed unfair to Jeremiah, but he chose to keep it from him and protect their mother's wishes. And despite his own desperate need to talk, to cry, to fall apart, Conrad respected Susanna's choice to live her last days without sadness hanging over every moment. He gave her that gift, even though it cost him peace, sleep, and maybe even parts of his relationship with Belly, and he never used it as an excuse. He just took the hits of being called distant, difficult, guarded, all because he refused to let her secret become anyone else's burden, but made it his own instead. Conrad keeps taking the mature and respectful route by understanding and accepting Belly's choice, even though it's not with him, which might have been the hardest thing he's ever had to do. After everything they've been through, including the moments that were almost something, he still chooses to step aside with grace and pretend he was okay with Belly and Jeremiah. He's not confusing her. He's maintaining the long distance so he doesn't have to see her. And it isn't because he stopped loving her, but because he knows that real love isn't control, but allowing the person you care about to follow their own heart, even if it leads them somewhere else. That doesn't mean it's easy. You can see the weight in his eyes and the way he looks at her, especially after their first meeting in years. There's that quiet ache in every scene they share, but he never makes her feel guilty. He never tries to interfere. He never plays the victim because Conrad knows Belly doesn't owe him her love. He hopes, maybe deep down, that if she ever turns around, he'll still be there, but that looks impossible with every passing moment following the marriage plans between Belly and Jeremiah. Believe it or not, many people prefer Conrad over Jeremiah because of his brilliance compared to Jeremiah, who couldn't even graduate and is now $20,000 in debt over his tuition. Conrad is brilliant, and not just in the bookish, top-of-the-class way. Everyone knows it, including Jeremiah, who compares himself to him whenever his own mistakes catch up to him. From Conrad's acceptance into one of the prestigious schools to training to become a doctor, he has always been the one with a quiet intellect and a clear sense of direction. But what makes his intelligence stand out isn't just grades, it's the way he handles pressure, responsibility, and long-term thinking. He understands priorities. When his mom was sick, he didn't drop everything impulsively. He thought it through. He carried the emotional weight and still managed to show up for college, balance his commitments, and try to keep things afloat at home. On the other hand, Jeremiah tends to overlook the little things that matter, forgetting to register for some core courses to graduate, and he cracks under pressure when the consequences of his actions catch up to him, which is a red flag. Relationships aren't built on vibes and beauty alone. They need presence, awareness, discipline, and the ability to think ahead. Conrad's intellect is very steady, even though he has his bad days. He's the kind that reads the room, reads people, and thinks 3 moves ahead. He's the guy who remembers what Belly said in passing and does something about it. And in a show full of impulse and distraction, Conrad's ability to stay grounded makes him dependable and rare. Jeremiah staying back to help after Steven's accident was thoughtful, but Conrad went the extra mile despite not being physically present. Thousands of miles away, in the middle of a serious assignment with a strict doctor, Conrad still made time to be helpful. While Jeremiah was physically present, Conrad made real moves asking for connections behind the scenes. He acted effectively without needing credit, which is the kind of support that matters in the real world, a support that Belly would come to enjoy by choosing Conrad over Jeremiah, just like many fans have done. Being there emotionally is essential, but it's even better to be able to do something, think clearly in a crisis, and take initiative, which makes someone a true partner. When it's no longer summer houses and love triangles, but bills, careers, grief, and unexpected life challenges, she'll need someone who can hold more than just her hand.